Hello, my name is Brad Bodnerchuk, and welcome to the Half a Dozen Hospitality Podcast, where we discuss everything hospitality, from the food on the plate to the teams that make it happen and the community that drives this industry forward. On this podcast, we sit down and chat with some of the most exciting, inspiring, and creative minds that make up one of the most dynamic industries that there is today. And today, I have the pleasure of being joined by Josh and Jay from YVR PREP. Welcome to the show, boys.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
It is a beautiful morning here on Still Creek Ave in Burnaby. This is my first time to this space, but already I can see you guys are doing awesome things here. And thank you so much for making time for me, one, and two, inviting me into your space.
Pleasure. Pleasure's ours.
The first question that I usually lead off right away on this podcast is the what, where, why, and how you guys and food. Now, before we turn the mics on, we started talking a bit about my history with food. So can you guys kind of fill me in, take us back as far as you can, your association with food? Where did it start? How did it start? And why did it start?
You want to go for it? Take a stab.
Sure.
Do it, Brother Josh.
So I've been chefing all my life. Food's always been a big piece of what I do. So got into it in the teenage years, got my Red Seal at 21. I got married young, left for Ireland, went on to Finland, moved back to Vancouver in 2009. Just chefing the whole time. And then I think the food thing changed for me when I had kids. You know, what you're eating and how you're feeding them and where's food coming from. And you just... It's different. You can't be a chef to these guys, these little monsters. They're just different. So the game changed for me at home and has led on to a series of different decisions. Okay. Not just professionally, but how we eat, why we eat is just different now.
Cool.
Still chefing, still loving food, and obviously doing this project with some great partners here in Burnaby.
Sorry, Jay, I messed you up there with your mic. You good?
All right, I think
you might want to crank on the bottom lever there. I know this table's not the most ideal with the lip we have on it, but we'll make it work. So, Josh, you're saying, sorry, kids, if we can for a second, multiple, how many, boy, girl?
I got 2 daughters. And
nice.
When the first daughter was born, she had some allergies and some sensitivities.
Okay.
So we had to, look at what we're feeding them and why and how she reacts to food. And so it's led my wife, who was a social worker, to become a nutritionist.
Oh, wow.
And food's just a huge part of who we are and what we do at home. So
amazing.
Yeah, man.
Love that. Yourself, Jay, can you rap to us about kind of basically how you find yourself here today? I know, again, before we turn the mics on, you were saying that chefing like Josh isn't really your forte.
No.
You're a fresh prep guy. Shout out to Fresh
Totally.
Prep.
Yes.
But take us back to maybe the early association that you have with yourself with food that you remember kind of growing up.
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say I'm foodie by heart. Okay. So there's never... I always joke with my friends that if there was ever an opportunity for me to jump on Fear Factor, I think I would have a good shot at winning it.
Okay.
Anything that I've seen in all the episodes with Rogan and stuff, from moving bugs and critters, anything like that, I would actually give it a shot. So,
really?
My actual repertoire of things that I've tried, I mean, there's still a lot out there that I've yet to.
Okay.
It's just due to opportunity.
Right.
It hasn't presented itself yet. So
right.
As far as being able and willing to try new things, I think that's where my passion for food is.
Okay.
But that's almost kind of from the outside looking in.
Right.
Actual prepping, cooking of food, I'm quite far off the spectrum.
Right.
Although I do cook for my kids based on what I can do and my small little sort of skill set of meals that I can get for them.
Right.
Mainly it's my wife that would do most of that.
Right.
So that would be the sort of the food side. I guess you might have another question on.
Yeah, and I was gonna say so
yeah.
in regards to like where we find ourselves today in YVR Prep, like how did this become a business that you aligned yourself with? Was it because of your natural association with foods, or you just see this as a business opportunity economically?
Yeah, a little bit of both. I think there's two convergence of stories. I think Josh can embellish a little bit more on sort of his end and Ryan's end on how we kind of came together. But I'll tell a little bit about my side. So I have another business currently, which is a co-working space out in Surrey, and it provides workspace, desk space, meeting space, virtual office support to digital nomads, self-starters, solopreneurs, people who work from home-based nonprofit organizations. And so I provide space for them to work in a very functional environment that's very community-driven.
Right.
Started that close to 5 years ago.
Oh, wow.
The funny thing is, this kind of happened by accident as far as YVR PREP to what it's been manifested in. So when I first opened that space, which is called Beta Collective out in Wally, shouts to Wally.
Shout out Wally.
So when that, within 3 months of actually opening that space, I received a number of phone calls, and which was kind of interesting because so on my website, basically I want to list all my features and benefits of our website, of our space, how great it is. And one of the little things which I took no notice of is that I actually have a kitchen in my space. Kitchen as in like a canteen, like a staff room, kitchenette.
Yeah.
So when I was getting I received total, I would say probably about 5 phone calls within a 3-month span.
Right. People
calling and say, "Hey, I noticed on your website that you have a kitchen. Can I rent it?" I'm like, I have a kitchen, but no, you can't. Like, what do you need it for? It's like, I want to cook this, this, and this. I'm like, no, I got a microwave, a toaster oven, and a refrigerator, and a sink, so you can heat up your food, but you can't cook anything.
Right.
And it's funny. So after the first couple calls, I'm like, whatever.
Yeah.
But when I received about 5 phone calls, I'm like, what the heck is going on? Like, why are people inquiring about this? So, and knowing Ryan, I've been friends with Ryan since I was a teenager, so we're boys for a while, and I gave him a shout because obviously I know he's a chef. He's one of the only few chefs that I know. So I'm like, hey, do you know anything about people wanting to rent a kitchen to produce food? And they're like, yeah, it's a commissary. I'm like, what the fuck's a commissary? Like, I had no idea what it was. So it was after that kind of became a bit of a tipping point for us. So I did a little bit of research and, learned about Woodlands and learned about, Commissary Connect. I'm like, wait a minute, like there might be an opportunity here. So that kind of led to that conversation, and and then fast forward 2.5 years, 3 years, here we are. So,
wow.
And then Josh and Ryan, they got an interesting story because that's where the convergence came because Brian also had some game plans in mind.
Right. So Ryan is unfortunately not with us today. He's kind of running around the building doing what he needs to do, running the business while we just play on the mics here. Yeah. One thing I love to ask people when I'm interviewing multiples is if you guys were, and Ryan's not here right now, but if you guys were a 3-piece band, who is playing what instrument and why? Who's lead vocal, lead guitar? Who's keeping the beat on the bass? Who's keeping the beat on the drums?
Oh, man.
That's a good question.
I would say this guy's on the mic. This guy,
he's the front man?
He's got the gift of the gab, so it's good because at the end of the day, I think Josh would tell the story of YVR PREP, our mission. Yeah. What is it that we would love to do with it? Sort of the blue sky. So yeah, man.
Josh is the lead man?
Yeah. You're the
Thanks for
Maroon 5 right here.
I like that. Can you tell us a bit about how YVR PREP came to you as far as an idea or how this came to fruition?
Yeah, for sure. So me and Ryan used to work together and being chefs. Both originally, we had our own idea of what we could create together. And originally with a lot of the kitchens in the city, small space, it doesn't allow for the same kind of batch cooking that a lot of the smaller fine dining, kind of more upscale places would have. Right. We talked about providing some stocks and some mother sauces, something that would have taken up that small stovetop for a long time. Okay. That conversation kind of progressed to, not just that there wasn't a lot of opportunity, and there wasn't a lot of commissaries out there. It was the accessibility. So it not being, I think there was one or two, and before Woodlands had gone down. Yeah. But there wasn't enough of them, I think, for what people were.
The demand.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And so our conversation progressed from let's make something to, hey, I wonder could we provide space with our background and kind of run it more from a an industry perspective or a food loving perspective.
Right.
Ironically, me in my own personal life, I had a lot of step back professionally. So at the time I was working up at UBC as a chef up there, and sat on the sustainability
nice.
council up there, and UBC does a great job of keeping sustainability at the forefront of their food program. And so I had never really asked those questions so much before, but this coincided with my daughter getting sick, and
Right.
Does this have an effect, and kind of what's wrong with food? There's a plethora of Netflix documentaries and books that are talking about what's wrong, but not a lot of people talking about and living what is right and what are those answers. So I think, as Jay said, like the blue sky, this vision for doing a commissary or being part of a food space was to big picture change the system, right? So access to local and sustainable and healthy food,
Right.
kind of to the forefront, which those three things, although great buzzwords in practice and are out there, they're not, they're not leading the charge.
Not at all. Yeah.
So
unfortunately.
Yeah, it's still very much a big food system. So, we saw this as an opportunity to change the system,
Nice.
right? Which is huge.
Yeah, I think it's from people that I've sat down with and a lot of restaurateurs and entrepreneurs that I know and chefs that are curating menus, that really is for a lot of people at the forefront, trying to take the little steps to make a change, whether it's the producers they're buying from or the menu that they're writing or whatever the situation may be. There are people that are trying. So kudos to you guys for taking a step forward. I know there's a place, I'll give a shout out to a buddy of mine over in Victoria. He has a few restaurants. They have 2 restaurants called The Village. And they have now incentivized the community to basically loan them their green space to plant and produce products for the restaurant.
Rad.
Which I think is they call it the Village Grow Show. So shout out to Jason and Brian from the Village. But things like that, I think, and they say the exact same thing. They just want to facilitate a change. But something you mentioned that is our reality today is big food. So how can you guys give us like tangible things you guys can do within the business that can combat that a bit, or at least influence people to think a little bit differently about food?
Well, I think consumer demand has kind of changed.
Okay.
We want that local story. We want to be connected to our food system, or at least feel like we are.
Right.
Which makes it easier to sell a local or seasonal product. It's a tough space, that whole food space.
Yeah.
And it all comes down to dollars and cents for a lot of what has happened to date. You know, it's been about plate cost or food cost in the industry. It's about, very rough margins and shitty conditions for everybody who works in the industry. I mean, Ministry just published, sitting on the counter over there, talking about our shitty labor and brutal kind of landscape, which is the industry.
Yeah.
But what we keep talking about is less dollars and cents and more redefining value.
Right.
Like, what's the value in a strong regional food system?
Right.
And it goes way beyond dollars and cents, and just plate costs. So focusing on kind of high level and redefining value,
right.
That's more what we're trying to focus on. And I think that's a much longer term,
right.
To see the fruits of that.
Yeah, for sure.
It's really plowing fields before planting seeds, let alone harvesting.
Yeah.
So really trying to work with small producers and processors, and industry folks, and kind of leveling playing field and opportunity, and again, that word accessibility, so affordable and available. But there's a lot, and this is what I think I love what you're about, and that's having conversations
Yeah.
and letting people hear a little bit more from those processors and
Yeah.
chefs and industry people and farmers, because eventually it's consumer dollars and consumer support. So that end person
Exactly.
does have all the power. It's not
Yeah.
big food,
Yeah.
even though we think it is.
Yeah.
So just focusing on that end user.
Yeah, for sure. No, I appreciate that. That's kind of what I'm trying to do with this show is add context to, like I was saying before we turned the mics on, like, why do you guys do this? Or having a chef on and helping him describe or explain why a certain item is $35. Like, why is that halibut $35? Well, it's not just $35 for the halibut. You got to take into consideration all the other things that went into it. And I think that's the danger that this industry has. And from a business standpoint, as you mentioned as well, Josh, like the margins can be so small, right? So you have to be as creative as you possibly can. But food's not getting any cheaper, especially good, like you're saying, good quality whole food. So I think people like yourselves, the people you guys have in here that are populating your kitchen, and restaurants around the city are challenged because it's not getting cheaper to produce an item, but there's that ceiling where consumers, the three of us, we're not going to pay $85 for a steak, right? We have kind of a cap. So as a producer, I'm kind of like strapped. Okay, well, the steak's now costing me $50. So how can I make my margin? So it's very, very challenging. It's a challenging time in the industry right now to facilitate the changes that we're trying to make in places like here at YVR Prep. But I appreciate what you just said, and I've never heard it articulated that way, was changing the idea of value, like changing the story to value. It's not just about $9.99. There's more to it than that.
And I would probably add to it in terms of empowerment to these small producers, because I think at the end of the day, if you provide that sort of, as Josh mentioned, that level playing field, it gives them then the power to choose whether or not they want to perhaps grow into becoming a larger processor, or do they want to continue being content with small batch production, just to support, to be part of the sort of the local community, but giving them the option to do that. A case in point would be like an Ernest ice cream or a Cardam donut. Like, they started out of a small commissary, and now they are going gangbusters. They're just going crazy with that, and that's great too. But certainly not every producer that comes through this commissary, any other commissary, would be that sort of next company of that to grow to that size. But certainly giving them that opportunity to stretch, expand their networks and sales channels and distribution channels to perhaps hit that tipping point, that would be great as well. And we for us, that's the heart of our business, is just to know that we were that launch pad for you guys to get to that position. So then if you end up leaving our nest and you've outgrown our space and you're doing your own thing, like that, to us is a pat on our back. Like, hey, we did it. I hate to see you leave, but it makes sense. Like, please go.
Exactly.
It's all about scaling, right? So we're going from small and startup to people who can go out, and so focusing on scaling that small foodpreneur, that's the goal.
And the interesting thing to that is I would say we say vast majority of our clients don't really have a restaurant background. They're not chefs by trade. Like, these guys, they have a Monday to Friday 9 to 5 doing some corporate gig or whatever, and this is their side hustle.
It's all about the side hustle.
It's crazy.
It's multiple revenue streams.
It's crazy just getting phone calls and emails from these guys and saying, hey, I want to produce this. I want to do this. I'm slowly selling this right now, but eventually their story is, I want to make the jump from my corporate gig into this full time, because this is my passion. To me, that's so freaking cool. Like, to be able to provide that opportunity, because they can't afford to open a restaurant. They can't afford to spend that time to be attached to a food business right away. So for them to be able to progress towards that, where, hey, I just need a couple of hours a week now. In 3 months, if the business grows, I would love to be able to put in, 10 to 20 hours a week, and then eventually get to that full-time thing. And, there's not that many opportunities that could provide that, sort of progression for them, and commissaries are it.
Do you guys look at what you do as, I'll use the term like social entrepreneurism? What I mean by that is, I always blank on this. What are the shoes? Tom's. You know, Tom's shoes. You buy a pair of shoes, and I think a kid gets a pair of shoes or something along those lines. So it's as I understand the term,
one for one.
Yeah, exactly. So as I understand, part of me, social entrepreneurialism. It's you're starting a business for the greater good of someone else. So do you guys feel like maybe it just kind of happened accidentally that this business model is providing that? Do you guys consider yourselves to be social entrepreneurs, or is this strictly just an entrepreneurial venture?
For myself, I mean, I'll speak for myself. In terms of starting my co-working space, that was less of an aha moment, more of like an oh shit moment, because I became a dad for the first time.
Nice.
So I was a marketing consultant prior to running the space, but working from home.
Right.
It was not productive at all. So for me to transition, but the issue was I can't afford to rent my own office.
Okay.
So selfishly, I thought, oh, what if I open up a space where people pay for my rent?
Right.
Right. That obviously manifested into this whole total community-driven, social purpose type of, even though it's a private business.
Yeah.
It was more than the sum of its parts. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And I was blown away by sort of the value that I got back from the community that I built.
Yeah, I bet.
Right. So in terms of like, hey, I need a web designer for my site, I need an accountant for my business, I need a lawyer for that. Like they all came within my ecosystem that I built. Yeah. And I was like, this is cool. So when the whole the whole commissary idea came, I'm like, I don't see a reason why this concept of placemaking, of co-working, a collaborative networking that's organic, can't be duplicated in
different industry,
in a different vertical. So when I approached them about the idea, and then they had similar ideas already to begin with, like, oh, we were thinking of using a space like that. I'm like, that's your answer. Like this totally works. And so for that to sort of progress into a commissary like this, where we see collaboration has blown our minds when it comes to like a donut maker and then a jam maker coming together. Yeah. You know, that wasn't in our business plan. Like, you know, like we didn't expect that to happen because you have no idea who's going to come through our doors, who's actually going to, you know, pay their first month's rent to actually come into our space to work. Yeah. But the fact that we provided this playing field for them to make a sandbox, so to speak, for these kids to play, you know, like magic's happening. And that to me is, you know, where our original idea is, yes, it's business driven. There's revenue to be made here and whatnot, but it's totally transcended that by leaps and bounds. And we're only half year in, you know? So like, there's still a lot ahead for us that we are so excited about. And like Josh got some crazy ideas in like terms of what we want to do with this space. Yeah, I bet.
Josh, for you as someone that's been exposed to food a lot through your career, do you walk through this space? I know for me, I just walked through when I first arrived and met Josh, and just watching just the few people that are back there doing what they're doing. I was so inspired and so excited for them. Like, do you walk back there and just get so much inspiration? And are you excited by seeing people create and doing what they seemingly are loving to do?
Yeah. So nothing excites me more than food. Right. And getting back to your last question about, you know, is it socially driven? Right. Like, and we talk about that nowadays. Socially driven businesses, triple bottom line, the people, profits, planet kind of thing, and that's kind of like bottom line for me as far as healthy and sustainable businesses going forward. Bare minimum. Doesn't matter who you are; it should be that kind of triple bottom line. But food's different. Okay, food's totally different. You can't measure food like anything else because, I mean, apart from water, you take food out of the equation, 21 days later, you're dead. Yeah, exactly. So there's also no stronger act as individuals in what you choose to eat. Right. So how that affects everybody around you, your community, your family, your physical body, right. The environment, it is the single strongest act that you can do, right, is what you decide to eat. So I don't think there's like a business model that you need to follow. Right. But that's why you see some of the disruptors in the food space right now doing what they do and how socially it just exploding. Yeah. Case in point is a dude named Ron Finley. Okay. Who did a TED Talk not too long ago. Dude lives in LA.
Right.
And basically in his talk highlights the fact that there's nothing but, in his words, drive-throughs and drive-bys.
Okay.
It's a food desert in LA.
Yeah.
There's no access to food. And the dude basically planted food on the street.
So cool.
His approach, just plant some shit, just do it.
Yeah.
But that access and connection to food, I feel, is the most powerful and disruptive act
Right.
that we can do.
Yeah.
So it changes, so much of what we do is in my opinion led by convenience, right? Like,
Right.
what can I afford? What's around? What do I feel like? All
Right.
these glorious questions we can ask.
Yeah.
But actually, again, redefining value.
Mm-hmm.
And what I decide to eat, how that's going to have those social
Right.
implications or
Right.
ramifications, right? Is it local? Is it seasonal? Is it organic? Is it healthy? Is it good for me? Should I be eating this? Is
Right.
it culturally appropriate? On and on and on, right?
How often are you of that mindset when you're taking a fork to a plate and putting that fork in your mouth? Is this a conversation you're having with yourself all the time? Or are you able to say, like, Josh, just chill and enjoy this plate of pasta? Jay's laughing.
Yes, it's some of the time. It's not all the time.
Yeah. Or is it kind of innate for you now?
No, it's always on. It kind of by necessity. Again, how I got into this, like my oldest daughter, anaphylaxis to dairy.
Oh,
so if
okay.
you're not reading labels, if you're not aware of kids high-fiving each other after ice cream,
Right.
it leads to a hospital visit
Yeah.
and maybe more, right? So you're already fine-tuned to food,
Right.
and it makes you question, wow, if food can have that effect. I mean, whether you're diabetic or you've got a nut allergy, all of a sudden you look at food differently. It's not this like, oh, what do I feel like today? I'm
Right.
hungry.
Right.
So you're already aware. I'm gluten-free myself. I've been for a number of years now. So I can't just go out with the boys for beers and
Right.
pizza, right? Like,
Right.
just not in for me. I got to read labels. I got to kind of be aware. Otherwise I pay for it.
Yeah.
So it just changes your approach, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But that's all necessity, right?
And something I feel like, just having watched you describe it and how you speak about it, I feel like it's something you embrace and you don't look at it as a hindrance to your life. It's more of it's brought you to where you are today, and maybe a more woke space where you're far more aware and having to be, but then you're also embracing it as well. Would that be accurate?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm aware, and I love being aware
Right.
of that food. I love asking that question, and I love sharing that passion, right?
For sure.
Talking about that.
Can we change speeds for just a second and talk again about YVR PREP specifically? Can you guys, one of you guys, tell me, for the listeners that don't understand what a commissary is and what this business is, can you give us a Coles Notes on that? And then second part to that question, listeners are listening, who is your ideal customer? Who's your ideal client? So someone's out there and they're making cookies at home. Shout out to the Salty Cookie. Meredith, you're making cookies at home. Come here, make cookies here. So part one, what is YVR PREP? What is a commissary kitchen for those that don't know? And then two, who is your ideal customer, your client?
Go for it, bro.
Yeah, commissary is a shared kitchen space. So businesses of various sizes, various backgrounds are able to come in, use the space, work off of the station, fulfill their food dreams. Mm-hmm. We probably wouldn't be a great test kitchen if you have, your grandma's banana bread recipe and everybody's telling you you're a great cook, but you just haven't nailed it yet. We're probably not the space to do that in.
Right.
So we are dealing with businesses that are, ready to make a true go of it. And if you're Nature's Path, probably not the right space. We're going to get real squishy real soon.
Yeah.
Much bigger operation. So it's kind of that small to mid-sized. You're ready to take the next level.
Okay.
And ready to scale your business. I think that's the ideal person or member.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what dictates that? Is that, if we can just get to the brass taxes, is that what you guys charge as far as fees, or is that just what you guys want to establish as your standard roster of who you have in the space, or having gone through it now for a while, that's just who you find the space works for?
Yeah, I mean, our sweet spot would probably be sort of the 1 to 3 person operation. They can produce pretty much anything that our equipment can support.
Right.
And Josh can give you a quick rundown of our inventory of equipment. But we are open to, any types of producers.
Right.
I would see more so on the micro to small, just because you're looking at 1 to 3 employees.
Yeah.
These would be people, if they are sort of on the starting point, would be ones perhaps picking up a few kiosk tables on farmer market weekends,
Right.
once or twice a week. Again, that's sort of the general kind of core of our membership at this point in time.
Okay.
Other people would be visiting night markets. We do have people that sell online as well. So these guys have capacity to grow. So
Right.
that's what gives us the opportunity, why they would choose a space like ours, because you can grow into our space. We're roughly at about 10,000 square feet.
Right.
So in terms of if we were at capacity in a given day, because we're a 24/7 operation, we are looking to expand on people willing to come and work on the graveyard shift as well. So I would say when it's all said and done, we could support probably upwards of 60
Wow.
companies of varying sizes and needs.
Right.
That would probably be a good capacity for us. Yeah.
Are you guys finding that your business is growing, and I'll use the term organically, or are one of you guys like Jay? You seem to be more like the business savvy guy from the 31
So
minutes
sweet.
31 minutes that I've known you. But are you like heading up, like going out and finding new customers, or is it just happening organically? Are people finding you because of a necessity?
It's a combination of both. We have a lot of inbound that comes pretty organic.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're putting ourselves out there. We try to visit. We try to check out as many events as we can. But on the flip side, our clients are our ambassadors,
Right.
which is great, because anytime they're out there at a farmer's market, they are either chatting it up with other vendors,
Right.
seeing where they're producing. It's not like we are telling them what the pitch is. Like they are, almost selling on our behalf. So we're getting calls and emails from people that they've referred over to us.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we still do like sort of the Craigslist things kind
Right.
of by default. But as far as us, aligning ourselves with various associations, boards of trade, chambers of commerce, attending networking events. I mean, that's all biz dev.
Right.
That's kind of just, again, baseline that you should
Exactly.
be doing anyways.
Yeah.
Are we doing any sort of outbound sales? We don't do any cold calling. I
No.
suck at cold calling. I don't wish that upon anybody.
Yeah.
So for us, we're pretty fortunate to be able to have a concept that people are kind of naturally driven to. You come to our website, you pretty much just get it.
Yeah.
If you have that mindset of like, hey, I want to sell something or I want to make something, you're going to come to our site and be like, okay, that's what you guys can support us.
Yeah, and the other one is taking advantage of all the awesome food community that's out there.
Mhm.
So, like participating in Feast of Fields this
Yeah.
September,
Oh,
we're
cool.
going to be there,
Awesome.
and we get to showcase and partner some of the members here together. So it'll be collaboratively
Amazing.
executed. That's badass. Burnaby's inaugural Pride.
Oh,
Looks
okay.
like we're going to be there next month,
Nice.
which is great too. So between hosting our own events from pop-up markets and plated dinners and
Yeah,
farm
that's really our next
demos,
phase that we really want to expand on,
Right.
is doing activations in here that brings a lot of warm bodies into this
So
space
cool.
that may have never heard of us
Yeah.
or never would have heard of us unless they got invited to this. So
Yeah.
Totally.
to this place.
It reminds me of kind of what David's doing down at the Dirty Apron downtown.
Yeah, nice.
That to me is just such a cool and unique exposure for foodies or non-foodies, just to get in there and get your hands dirty, understand how to cook a few plates, pardon me, and get exposed to different types of equipment, different types of cutlery, and different types of proteins and whatever it is. I think that, like you were saying, I think that's a huge opportunity for this space and spaces like that to bring people in and expose them to things that they don't get exposed to on their regular day in their home or out at restaurants, and maybe help them understand the story, like we're trying to do with this podcast. Is okay, how does a plate happen? Like, how does it go from raw product to finished product? It'd be so cool to see that happen in this space as well.
And what's unique is that you hear about those happening in downtown in Vancouver and such, but nothing out in the burbs. So nothing
Yeah.
east of Boundary. You very rarely hear about these sort of placemaking opportunities related to food.
Exactly.
So yeah, like I think we are in a very opportunistic position to really kind of exploit things that are, again, just super cool in the food space, and we're just barely cracking the surface right now, because I think our main goal in the beginning is because we have rent to pay here to the landlord, so our number one goal over the past 6 months have been just, let's fill that space with membership.
Exactly.
That's just being a glorified landlord.
Yeah.
Let's shift away from that now, or expand upon that now, and do more things that's going to empower them to either stick around or bring more people into this place, so that so that there can be more cool things happening.
That's awesome.
Well, people are starving for food connection.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
So whether it's out in the field or dinners on Blanc or family style and shared, like reinterpreted formats of how you can serve and connect with food, but that's what people want.
Right.
So utilizing this space and our proximity, community, influencing those ways that we connect with food from the producer straight through to the consumer. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's powerful. Very powerful story. You mentioned, was it Ron Finley?
Yeah, that's right.
In LA.
The gangster gardener.
The gangster gardener. So shout out to Ron. Is there anyone else that you guys right now are aware of or kind of watching behind the scenes that's doing something that you're like, damn, he or she is absolutely crushing it in this industry, in this space?
I don't know about particular names or individuals, but there are certain collectives that we are keeping an eye on. And like, there's a group out in Colorado, and the name slips my mind, but they are doing a very kind of like it's almost like the ecosystem is more on a macro level now. It's actually almost like citywide, and it's everything from like all the things that we would love on a micro scale here in terms of activations with cooking, education, workshops, consumers meeting with farmers and that sort of thing, but it's done on a much larger scale. There's buy-in from the city, there's support from various organizations, and they're doing some pretty progressive things out there.
I feel like Colorado is like really kind of flying the flag of progressive over the last couple of years.
So it's something that we're keeping a close eye on, just to kind of like, hey, and the reason why I'm looking at Colorado is like, they're not a huge, big metropolis city. They're on the scale pretty similar to Vancouver. So, so when we can see sort of smaller type cities being able to do something like that and get the community to kind of buy in and be on board with something so progressive, it's something that we believe we could, perhaps start off with on, just in our sort of little enclave here, and hopefully that could create a ripple effect. And because right now organically we're trying to align ourselves with different organizations doing really cool stuff. We've taken trips out to Abbotsford to meet with some people that are doing some cool things there with some of the farmers markets and craft breweries and things. So I think we're trying to connect the dots. So I think in about, if you want to have a follow-up interview in the next 6 months or so, I think we would have some pretty interesting stories to tell. I can guarantee you that.
I bet. Anyone particular for you, Josh, that's kind of sparking your interest?
For sure. I want to shout out to all the farmers.
Nice.
Especially the Fraser Valley farmers.
Okay.
Access to farming right now, not just median age, is brutal. And I'm convinced that as our farmland is slipping literally through the grass, and from crazy ass mansions to subdivisions going up, just so that everybody knows, nobody's bulldozing Surrey subdivisions to put up farmland. Once it's gone, it's gone. And farming is so hard. So everybody who eats locally needs to really, really appreciate the work that's going in to feed us.
Definitely.
So big shout out to every farmer.
Actually, it's I got an email 2 weeks ago from this gentleman up in Williams Lake, just past Williams Lake. It's called Big Bear Ranch. I've been purchasing meat off of him and his family for about 5.5, 6 years, and they are beyond organic, the way they approach farming. And the email that he sent was a few years ago, his wife got sick, and sadly she passed away from cancer. But when she was diagnosed, they were forced to sell part of their land to pay for et cetera, et cetera. And they've been leasing that land off of the person that they sold it to for the past, I'd say, 3 years. Now the owner has an accepted offer to sell the land to a big farmer. So not a small independent guy that's going to drive to Vancouver once a month and sell his wares to consumers. And it's tough for me to read emails like that. And it's tough for me to hear you, Josh, articulate it so well about like once these are gone and there's subdivisions put up, it's not coming back. I wonder what your guys' thoughts are on, aside from voting with our dollars, which I think is probably the most powerful vote we can do multiple times a day. How else can we help people like this gentleman up in Williams Lake who has come to a situation where he's now emailing all of his customers saying like, look, this is a situation. We're going to lose this land, and he doesn't know what to do.
You got to make it personal. You again, if the value is dollars and cents,
That's that, yeah.
if the value is dollars and cents, it'll never equate to this is something that I want to commit to.
Right.
But how I always think about it, my 2 baby girls, 20 years from now, where the fuck is their food?
Yeah.
Where's it coming from?
Totally.
What's left in the Fraser Valley of local food?
Yeah.
So not doing anything about it is the wrong answer. Make it personal. Make it, you'd never miss grandma's dinner on a Sunday, right?
Yeah, exactly.
She spends hours. There's so much love in it. Brings all the family together. That's a micro example of what our food system should look like.
Right.
Everybody coming together. You put in some effort, but it tastes so prime. Yeah, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it is unfortunate, and I'm really hopeful that we as a community can help force some change to people like Big Bear Ranch and other farmers in the Fraser Valley that are up against the wall a bit, because one, like you said, it's not easy to farm, and there's not a ton of money in it either, right? So if you can and you have the ability and the knowledge, please do go out, shop local, support local. And like I said, vote with your dollars. I think it's I know it is the most impactful vote that we all can do day in and day out in any industry.
Yeah. But I also think, not just to speak on behalf of YVR PREP, but commissaries and shared kitchens and things that are supporting, because, it goes back to this whole ecosystem. It's all interconnected, right? So if you give a farmer one more reason to want to continue to work the land and produce, because there's a bunch of local producers that have bought in and understood the value of utilizing locally grown ingredients. Mm-hmm. That's just one extra avenue, again, for the farmer to sell, and therefore makes them a bit just a tad more sustainable.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And so then it goes right back, because then the consumers are now more educated on saying, oh, these are the inputs that are going into this food that I'm buying from this local manufacturer. Right. Awesome. Yeah. Right. So I think, us as a commissary, and like I said, our next phase is really to activate this front of house space for more placemaking, education, and things, because it's for those very reasons, is to allow the consumer to make more educated decisions when it comes to their food. And the only way they can know how is to bring people together to learn that way. And is that going to single-handedly cause a politician to be like, okay, I'm going to put stoppage on this now? Who knows? Actually, exactly. I think it takes 2 to tango. So but I think it's just like us. I mean, here's a small story. Not to digress too much, but so when we open this space, unbeknownst to us, okay, there are some parameters in terms of actually being able to work out of our space. You can't just simply come in and say, hey, here's my credit card, sign me up, and you work tomorrow, right? There's actually a few steps involved, mainly getting a Burnaby business license. Okay. And then part of that, getting that Burnaby business license, is to be approved by Fraser Health Authority with your food health and safety plan. Right. When we first opened the space and we thought, okay, you're ready to sign up? Okay, go to the city of Burnaby and apply for that license. Only to realize that license costs $1,080. Wow. For the city of Burnaby per year, right? Which is what we pay as a actual a physical
brick and mortar, brick
and mortar space. And part of the reason is because of old legislation.
Okay.
So basically, up to 49 employees or 50 employees, everyone in Burnaby pays that price as a manufacturer. We thought that's just crazy. Like, that's just insane for someone that's just starting out.
Yeah, massive barrier to entry.
Selling at a farmer's market once a week just to get things going.
Right.
There's just no way they can do it. So, like, for myself, fortunately, I've had some connections at the city of Burnaby. I was able to make a few phone calls and actually get in front of their licensing officer or supervisor and explain our situation. Like, this is crazy. And we gave them a number of, like, you know, here are a list of people that could potentially be taxpayers,
right,
you know, into the city and producing X amount of food or revenue on behalf of the city. And it's just stuff like economic, like, here's some economic power that can come from empowering this list of food producers.
Yeah.
As a result of that, they were able to dig around through the legislation and find some loopholes, and it went down to 10% of that cost. So it's $180 to get a business license.
Well done.
Right?
Well done.
It was, you know, for us, it wasn't like we had that intention. We were just thinking, hey, is there ways to maybe we could subsidize as YVR PREP to do, like, we were trying to look for anything in our power to support them.
Right.
Only to say that, hey, as a result of us, you know, coming together, presenting a case to them, made them sort of realize, it's like, you know what, it's actually valuable for you guys to be here. Let us see what we can do without having to spend 4 or 5 years, you know, doing first reading, second reading, or whatever, and voting on it, and have all these, like, massive changes over the course of 5 years or whatever. So
exactly.
So those little wins can happen as a result of us as a collective working together and being able to present something to them. So there's something to be said about that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Anything to add to that, Josh?
No, I just keep thinking about the carrot.
Okay.
You know, you grow that carrot.
Yeah.
You see how long it takes. You see the effort. You see the requirements. Guaranteed when you pull it from the ground, it's the best tasting carrot there is.
Yeah, definitely.
And 9 times out of 10, when you grow that carrot or you're connected to that carrot, you're not going to let it go flaccid in the fridge, right? It'll just be thrown out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just, again, collectively, when we're connected to our food systems, change can happen.
I love that. The show is called the Half a Dozen Hospitality Podcast. So I have for you two, the half a dozen have twos. So stay with me here. From each of you, because there's two, we'll divide it in half. So we need 3 from you each. So I need Josh and Jay's have twos. Something you've experienced, a movie you've seen, a concert you went to, a place you traveled to, a meal you've eaten, an article of clothing you own, a business you've had, whatever it is. What are 3 of your individual have-tos that you think the listeners have to absolutely expose themselves to? Whether it's growing a carrot, whether it's stepping in front of someone at City Hall. What are 3 things that from each of you think the listeners have to do?
I can roll with this.
Yeah, go.
Okay, so number 1, in the words of Ron Finley, plant some shit.
Plant some shit, I like that.
I think everybody should do that. Number 2, everybody should go see Italy.
Okay.
Again, being a chef, there's no better country. You don't need to tell Italians to love food.
Yeah, exactly.
And then number 3, just live with passion.
Love it.
You have to do that.
Love it.
I would say, if you can, health-wise, try anything once.
Okay.
Second, I just got turned on to this, but gotta watch Black Mirror on Netflix.
Okay.
It's an anthology series, but so it's a different story every time. But
okay, cool.
That will fuck with your mind.
All right.
In more ways than one. So,
okay. Black Mirror.
And then thirdly, try some sick food that's coming out of our kitchen.
Yes.
Like, it's legit. Like, in terms of having anything from a Venezuelan halacas to Mexican
Royal City Donuts.
I mean, not to name drop too much, but
there's some name drop. Do it.
There's some really authentic stuff that's coming out of here. I used to kind of brag to my friends, or I used to kind of dream that it would be so cool to, make it one day and have my own personal chef. And I got like 30 of them, which is pretty sick.
It's funny. It's funny how that happens. That you put things into the world and it may look a little different in the end, but it's actually there.
I got a new meal like every day. It's just, which, it doesn't do much in terms of my culinary skills, but to me, I don't care, man. I'm having stuff that's healthy, authentic. That stuff I cannot ever duplicate at home.
And to my point earlier about like walking through the kitchen space, it's just for me, like whether or not you duplicate a meal that you had, it's inspiring. Like you never would have thought to have done that with butternut squash, or you never would have thought to done that with white chocolate, whatever the situation may be. Like that's the cool thing about food that I think we could rap about for hours, is just like it can be so inspiring and so creative, and it's such a like. For me personally, I love food so much, but it's not just about the tastes and the flavors. It's about getting messy. It's about cutting yourself. It's about experiencing it. It's about getting dirt underneath your fingernails. I think is so important. Growing stuff. And I think there are so many different spokes to what food is, but it's a part of all of us. And like you said, we need it biologically. So let's be far more aware about what it is we're eating, where it's coming from, who's producing it, et cetera, et cetera. The second one I have for you guys is the half a dozen haven't yet. So same premise, but things that you haven't done. So 3 things from each of you guys that you haven't experienced, almost like a bucket list kind of thing. So from Josh and Jay, your 3 haven't yet.
Man. Plant some shit.
Okay.
Haven't done that yet.
Okay. Can we hold you accountable here on the show?
Oh, I think it's again part of our sort of game plan.
Okay.
So in the next 6 months, if we do a follow-up, I'm sure I would have planted something legit. So
Josh, will you hold his hand on that one?
Oh, for sure.
Okay. Awesome.
Please do.
Okay. Plant some shit.
All right.
You mentioned fear factor and not being afraid to eat anything. Is there anything that you think that you haven't tried that you were intrigued by? Like, are you like a cow testicle kind of guy? Like, could you do that stuff?
Yeah, I've done it. Not the cow one. I've done a pig's testicle.
Okay.
I've done, What else I would like to try?
Is there a place you haven't traveled yet? Is there a book you haven't read? Is there a Netflix show you haven't watched?
Yes. Who makes? There's some brain dish out there. There's
Yeah, like its actual brain?
Yeah, I found that intriguing.
Okay.
I found that intriguing. I forgot, was it a monkey brain or something? I don't know. I'm talking Indiana Jones or something.
That's what I'm picturing.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, yeah.
So there's more food you haven't eaten that you want to?
Definitely.
Do you have one more to cap it off for us? Or are you tapping out at 2?
I want to skydive.
Ooh, you can do that in the Fraser Valley.
Yep, yet to do that. So
maybe we should do round 2 of the podcast with the GoPro hooked to your chest for a skydive.
This guy's jumping. There's no way I am.
No.
I'm afraid of heights, man. Last thing I'd do.
How about this?
Almost everything that's opposite of Josh. What he can't do,
there you go.
I want to do.
That's why you guys make a good 3-piece rock band. Yeah. Josh, what about yourself? The 3 haven't yet.
Want to travel more.
Okay.
So
anything on your list? Like,
we haven't been on a tropical vacation.
Dope.
I want to take the wife and kids, go sit on a beach and smash coconuts.
Yes.
I just think that'd be paradise.
My sister and her husband and their 2 kids sold their place in Toronto and bought an eco lodge in Costa Rica. My brother-in-law's, he's from Israel, but his goal was leaving corporate Toronto was never to wear shoes ever again. So now they just they teach yoga and surf and eat mangoes. And it's pure Vita, they call it.
That sounds prime.
Yeah. So if you need a place to stay, let me know. I'll introduce you. Sorry, I cut you off there. 2 more?
Yeah, I've always dreamed of being a farmer.
Okay.
So to start a farm, or
like a hobby farm, or
no, like an actual farm.
Nice.
And then part of that would go into the third one, and that's have to disrupt more.
Nice.
So use those passions to disrupt more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you're looking for some green space, I know there's a space for sale in Williams Lake.
Williams Lake.
Williams Lake. It's $995,000 is the asking price for it. But it's beautiful up there. I don't know if you've ever been up there.
I haven't.
But talk about farmers doing stuff and doing it passionately. These guys and women. It's just amazing the time and effort they put into producing what they produce. And again, I'll shout out to Big Bear Ranch. The fact that this gentleman drives down once a month, every month, to sell his meat to multiple stop points in the Lower Mainland it's amazing. It's a 7-hour drive.
Nice.
And he's 71. But you talk to this guy and you just see it in his eyes how passionate he is about what he does. And the coolest part for me as a consumer, if I can just share the story for a quick second, is I love the fact that when I give him my money, that's it, transaction's over. Do you know what I mean? Whereas when we go to wherever we purchase something on a styrofoam plate wrapped in plastic, there's far more people involved in that process. So I think like what you guys are doing here, creating a space for people to come and create their products and go to the farmer's market, that's such a unique process of consuming food and products, is going to a farmer's market and giving someone that $10 bill and then that's it. I mean, obviously some of that money is going to the glass that it came in and going to a place like YVR PREP, but it's affecting that person directly.
Totally.
And I think I've said it multiple times, but I'll say it again, is it truly is the most powerful way we can impact change when it comes to voting with our dollars. And you articulated it really well, talking about your story going down to the city of Burnaby and giving them a very black and white look at what the economics of this looks like. Mm-hmm. And I think that's how we impact change. So any way we can, day in and day out, being very conscious of what we're eating and what we're supporting. Before we do sign off, how can people get a hold of you guys? How can they support what you're doing, and how can they check you guys out?
Yeah, we're exploring our Instagram game a bit more, so please find us on that, because a lot of the stuff that we're going to be putting up is really to support our members as well. So yeah, dig through who we are following,
okay,
and because there's a good chance a good bunch of them are the very people that are producing out of our kitchen.
Nice.
But yeah, our website, www.yvrprep.com. It's got all our contact information. Yeah.
And Instagram handle is?
YVR Prep.
Easy.
Yeah. All one word.
Awesome. I want to take a second to, again, thank you guys so much for having me into your space and making time. But I also want to thank you on behalf of the community for doing what you do. Sitting down with you guys just now over the past 57 minutes and 8 seconds, I can understand more of why you're doing what you do, and I hope it resonates to the listeners as well and the viewers, that when I first sat down, to be honest, I thought this might have been just like a business play. But I see how you guys talk and how you communicate your story. It's more than that. So I appreciate that, and the community appreciates that, because we need people like you to fly that flag and facilitate that change. So I celebrate what you guys are doing. I look forward to seeing you guys grow, and I look forward to keeping in touch and watching what YVR Prep becomes, who you guys align yourself with, and how you guys disrupt and affect positive change. So thank you guys so much from the bottom of my heart as a consumer.
Thank you.
To facilitating change that we need in this industry and educating people on this podcast and beyond. So thank you again for your time. Anything you wanted to end off on? Any special notes, quotes, people you want to shout out to?
Buy and support local through and through if you can.
Buy and support local. Great way to end it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. As always, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Be sure to tune in next week. Be sure to tune in next week for a brand new episode of the Half a Dozen Hospitality Podcast. Until next time, guys, be good and do good. Awesome, guys. Done.
Thanks, man.